yeah, you know.
Yeah, they should finish these off.
Good morning, everybody. It's my privilege to introduce Ron McCarthy and his associates John Coleman and Rebecca Adlin. But before they go into the substance of their report and answer any questions you have, I have just a few comments. This report fits in with earlier reports. The lessons learned so far are consistent with all the research that's been done. 4 points. We need a system for public review by the mayor and the council that will screen out events such as the WTO meeting that are likely to attract unmanageable political protest. So nothing like the week of the WTO unrest will ever happen again in Seattle. I can assure you it won't be on my watch. We need a system for police planning reviewed by the city council and the mayor that lays out the worst case scenario for any event that we do accept. This planning system will ensure that the police department has the staffing, fully operational mutual aid plans, and sufficient budget to deal with the worst case. We need a system that prevents some of the operational mistakes this report and others have revealed. For example, this means the police department has to have the staffing to arrest wrongdoers and vandals immediately and process them into jail without delay. And most of all, we need a system that ensures that we have contracts, real signatures on real documents, guaranteeing that the security and other costs of these events will not be borne by Seattle taxpayers. Without those guarantees, I will never again host one of these controversial events for the federal government or anyone else. There are going to be other specific recommendations made by the council review panel still at work. I expect them to be similar to what's here in Mr. McCarthy's report. As those reports are finalized, I will be working with the council on recommendations for legislation. Let me say this too. We've identified mistakes we never want to make again. But there's been one positive thing that remains unchanged for me in all those reports and comment I hear from the public. Our Seattle police officers conducted themselves with admirable restraint and professionalism through a very threatening, complex, and exhausting set of circumstances lasting nearly a week. On behalf of Seattle citizens, I thank the officers again for their dedication. Now I'd like to introduce Ron.
Before you do that, can I ask you what screen out means? You said they're going to screen out. We need a process to screen out events like the WTO. Does that mean that Seattle would screen out or not host APEC, screen out or not host a Democratic or Republican convention? That this would be done by some committee that would decide whether we'd even accept them?
We are, when the council completes its work, we will be focusing on a protocol to deal with major events, and the details of which is something that when the work is done of the council committees, that we will come up with a process that will allow a full discussion of the risks that are being asked, the capabilities that are being demanded of our taxpayers in order to host an event.
So screen out means identify rather than block?
It means that we're going to have a full public discussion before we take on another effort like the WTO. Let's move to Ron McCarthy's report, and then we'll have time for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to say that in our effort and in our work with John Coleman, Rebecca Adlin, and Mike Foreman, who isn't here today, from Florida, and with Bob Loudon from New York, no one from the police department or any other city entity or organization tried to misdirect or tried to guide our effort in doing our work. And this document is our evaluation and our investigation. It is our findings, and we were cooperated with fully by the police department and by the mayor's office. So I wanted to say that up front. The document is our work here, and we'd be pleased to answer any questions if you have any regarding our work.
How much did the report, cost the taxpayers of Seattle, and why shouldn't we look at this as just another report? There've been so many of them.
It cost $98,000. The work began in February, I believe it was, and today is July, and there were 5 people involved in it. So I believe that comes out to probably about $1,000 a month per participant for their work effort. That's simple math. I hope I'm not wrong. I probably am. My grandkids do better. The document, you'd be the best judge of what it is. We feel secure that it's an honest effort. There is very few segments of all of the disparate parts that created WTO that aren't in some way or other critically reviewed in a negative way in our report. So I think it was an honest effort on our part, and we did the best we could to try to talk to everybody from the citizens that we ran into on the street in downtown Seattle, who we interviewed, through the planners, different law enforcement professionals from the federal and the county and the city and the state. We reviewed thousands and thousands of pages of reports, emails, correspondence, letters from all over the United States, both prior to WTO. Hours and hours of audio tape having to do with communications and police communications, videotape, both of that was produced by the media, by the protesters themselves, and by the department, and we compiled that information as best we could together with our expertise and came up with our findings. So I think from a standpoint of should anybody pay attention to it, from a personal point of view, I would say yes. We think that we've made suggestions here that are extremely important to the citizens of Washington and the taxpayers in Seattle.
Ron, if I could add to that, I'd like to point out a very important issue, and it's one that deals with the learning process. And you asked, why should you pay attention to this report and not others? One of the major intentions we had when we entered into this independent review was to make it a learning process, a learning, living document for use not only by the Seattle Police Department in terms of learning and improving as a result of it, but for all Washington law enforcement and indeed law enforcement throughout the United States. Because as you all know, you were here and we weren't. This was a learning experience, and it was an event that turned tragic, and there were reasons because of that. But in many respects, it was unprecedented within the United States. And we believe it's a forecast of things to come. It has already happened. It happened in Washington, D.C. And many of the things that we had discussed, if you read our preliminary report, were done in Washington, D.C., and they worked. They were successful. It wasn't because we identified them. It's because they were commonsensical approaches that were taken based upon hard facts and experience. And so if this document does what we hope it will do, instruct people in how to do things and to spread the word that what happened here in Seattle can and is going to happen in all likelihood within other jurisdictions in the United States, then maybe they can be better prepared, and not only will Seattle learn from what happened, but other agencies in this country will learn as well.
The report says ultimately responsibility for the chaos and property damage lies with the protesters themselves. Isn't that a bit of a cop-out when it's the city's responsibility to keep that sort of stuff from happening?
I don't think it's a cop-out at all. I think it's a statement of fact. It's perhaps a simplistic approach in that we're saying that but for, if we didn't show up for work, these things wouldn't have happened. It is, in fact, a statement that is accurate in that we have advanced information that these people are coming here not to peacefully protest, but to establish a base of operations where they can shut down the city of Seattle and shut down the World Trade Organization. And you all know that in many respects they were successful in that effort. Now, law enforcement did their very best to prepare for it. Did they make mistakes? Absolutely. Did they underestimate the threat? Yes, they underestimated the threat. Were they overconfident because of past successful operations and using different methods of approach in accommodating protesters and so on? Yes, they were. But there was certainly no ill intention on the part of the mayor, the police department, or anyone else that was involved in trying to see that these events became peaceful. So I don't think it's a cop-out at all. The people who came here for the express purpose of disrupting, and some who came to actually riot, and that was discussed beforehand, are the ones that are ultimately responsible for what happened. And I think as the media, in wanting to be objective, I think it's very important that people look at this incident in Seattle as one in which there were a lot of people that played important roles. But when it comes right down to it, when you have people who think it's peaceful to sit in an intersection and refuse to leave, who break windows in Starbucks, and who riot in the streets and think that that's a peaceful expression of their constitutional rights, then I'm afraid that certainly this review team has to disagree.
One of the recommendations that you make in this report is a comprehensive review of the intelligence ordinance, and I don't, whoever on the committee wants to address it, what do you think the Seattle Police Department could have learned were it not for the restraints imposed by that ordinance that they didn't already know from looking up a website?
Well, let us use a comparison and then ask John or Becky if they want to add to it. The comparison would be that in Washington, D.C., the same groups with the same agendas were there. And early into the event in Washington, D.C., their law enforcement and the fire department, together with the legal support and paper that they needed to be constitutionally correct, went into the headquarters of the activists and the demonstration groups that were there, and immediately did so when they had reasonable cause. How did they get that reasonable cause? And with an intelligence ordinance that's in place in Seattle, that would not be possible. The fact that the police in Washington, D.C. Immediately went to a building that was taken over and took action, I believe was a direct result of watching what happened here in Seattle, and they benefited from that. Seattle didn't have that opportunity, but Washington, D.C. did. But back to the ordinance, certainly that ordinance, if it were in place in Washington, D.C., they would not have had the same success that they did in reacting to the demonstrators.
Sir, if I was here when that ordinance was adopted, and it was adopted largely because of heavy police infiltration into groups like the Black Panthers, the Black Student Union, other such groups. The fact that they kept pictures of the press inside dossiers, inside the department. And that ordinance was adopted to attempt to curtail what a number of people regarded as sort of extra-legal activity by the police. Given the nature of this city, or any city in the year 2000, is it possible to take away those rights, to do away with that ordinance without creating the image, intended or not, that Big Brother is watching?
I think that oftentimes when we're reacting to less than professional conduct on the part of the police or anybody, we oftentimes overreact, and after a 15 or a 20-year analysis of what we've created, that sometimes an alteration or two is in order. And I don't know that you have to go back to bad police conduct if in fact that's what occurred, and I don't doubt it. You were here and you say it occurred, and so we're certainly not arguing that. What we are saying is there's probably a better way than what is in place at this time, and it doesn't seem to be working for